Detective Sheppard.
Hi, Detective Sheppard. This is Chris Hicks. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm reaching out to you because I'm kind of in an information gathering stage on a report I'm following up on, and I want to see if there's any information that you have to share with me.
I want to specifically file a complaint.
You want to specifically file a complaint?
Which is what I told Chief Deputy Stratton.
Okay.
So because I don't want what you're doing to be an informational report or something, and I'm very concerned with certain things getting whitewashed. So right now, I think you're investigating something, or you're doing a report on something, but I don't know that you have a complaint who's filed a complaint.
Yeah, I'm just information gathering at this point.
Okay, well, then it's good that my son or I haven't been victims of an attack while the sheriff's office is information gathering. So I want to, my thing is I want to do a complaint.
Okay.
And so, we can do that some now. I have, it's quarter till noon. I have, I have to leave here by about 12:30. So that's the longest I have. I don't know if it would take that long, but, but I'm glad to schedule time. So I've been busy over the last, like when you called yesterday, I've just been busy and so I apologize for us playing a little phone tag.
Okay. Well, is there a better time that you'd like to call me back at?
No. Do you want to talk now, or do you want to,
fine.
Mentally adjust to the fact I'm filing a complaint? I'm not providing information into an existing report. If you want to draw a nexus between an existing thing you're doing and the complaint I want to file, then that's fine. But, I'm filing a complaint.
Okay. What is the complaint that you'd like to file?
My complaint is twofold. One is that I think there have been threats that I have to treat as credible against myself and my son. And if those threats are credible, then my safety is at risk. If those threats are not credible, then I am being the victim of either intimidation or menacing. Because the person involved has a pattern of trying to do things and basically to intimidate me, make me fearful, to menace me with these kind of claims. So given the nature of the claim of that I'm aware of, and we could talk, obviously I think there's a nexus to it in what you're looking at, but the threat that, there's an active plot to do harm to my son and me, and then if that's, so first off, obviously we need to clear up, is that a credible threat? If it is, I have to treat it as a credible threat. I'd be a fool. My son lives in Columbus.
Well, what information do you have in regards to that, Mr. Hicks?
What information do I have in regards to the threat?
Yes, sir.
That multiple individuals have told me that Greg Simpson has told them that there is a threat against my son and myself. Those two individuals that I'm aware of thus far, I don't know if there's other people, but one of which is Andy Capel and the other of which is Nick Owens.
Are there any other individuals?
That I am aware of?
Correct.
No, but I think two's enough.
Okay, and what is the threat?
The threat is being conveyed to me is that my son and I are going to be beaten by unspecified individuals that have a plan to take retribution upon me for my activities within the Republican Central Committee in Claremont County. Andy Capel told me, I believe that you've had conversations with him and even had a recorded call with him and Greg Simpson. Andy Capel came to me. I'm not friends with Andy Capel. We're cordial, but we don't hang out. We don't talk too much to each other. But he came to me, I think, I could look up here. I could tell you the specific day that, I'd have to look at my text messages here. But this, the specific day that he came to me and told me about this threat. Okay, and so that would have been, just one of my text messages, because he texted me right before he called me, so I can tell exactly when it was. So I believe it was on Thursday, February 22nd.
What time was that?
Hold on. I swear he texted me before that because he talked to me in the evening. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. He first communicated with me on Thursday, February 20th at 10:11 p.m. when he texted me to have a quick call. And then I called him back. And that's when he told me that Greg Simpson had told him that there was a threat against myself and my son.
Okay.
And that's after that I talked to Chief Deputy Stratton that same night, after I talked with Andy Capel.
Okay.
And then Nick Owens told me, I can't remember, he didn't want to text me, but they had a Brown County Republican Party Lincoln Day dinner. I could probably online figure out what date it was, but let's say it was sometime in the last week. And that Greg Simpson had told him of this threat at this dinner. And so I am a friend, I talk on a fairly regular basis with Nick Owens. And so so first I need to figure out, is there a legitimate threat? I'm not in the state right now, but my son is, and my son's in Columbus. I don't know if anybody's contacted him or asked him if he's seen any suspicious activity around him.
What's your son's name, sir? And a phone number for him?
Hold on. His phone number is
Has anyone contacted you directly and made any threats of self-harm to you directly?
no.
And hasn't notified you stating that anyone has contacted him, indicating that anyone has threatened to harm him directly?
He has not notified me. Are you aware of if anybody has, I would think like actual detective work might also be, have you seen anything suspicious around you? Have you seen, have you had any hint that somebody, other than just contact me, what does that mean? Like they phoned me up and said, I'm going to come kick your ass? But have you seen any suspicious activity, suspicious individuals? That kind of stuff, and I have not, so myself, that I'm aware of, but I'm not in the state.
Okay.
And then, as it relates to my son, I have no idea, and I have no idea if anybody's asked him those questions.
Okay. And Mr.
But
Simpson
I want to get back to...
didn't relay this to you directly either.
I'm sorry?
And Mr. Simpson didn't relay this information to you directly.
Yes, but it sounds to me in the way you're questioning me that you're trying to find a way to make this not be anything.
No, sir. I'm trying to gather all the information.
Well, but you didn't ask me questions when I said there's a pattern. You didn't ask me any questions about that. Instead, you asked me questions about, did he do it? Did you see this? So, continue, but, and I'm not a detective. You are. So you're the one that I should be seeing what kind of proper detective questions get asked via your questioning. Have you talked to Mr. Simpson?
I can't discuss ongoing investigations.
Okay, well, if there is a legitimate threat against my son and me, and if you already have recorded conversations with him, I don't know why at this juncture they would not have done contact with him already. He's the one that is telling people that this is going to happen, other than if there's a desire to make this go away.
And again, Mr. Hicks, when I spoke with you, I said I'm in an information gathering stage, and so I'm trying to gather information. And so I'm asking if you have any other information to share with me while we're gathering information.
Well, so it has been 10 days since Andy Capel came to me and since I talked to Chief Deputy Stratton. So how many days do you think it's going to take to do information gathering before the person who is alleged to be the person who, two different people, and you have, from my understanding, a recorded conversation, is speaking of these threats to my son and my family? I don't know how many days does it take then? How long is it? When would information gathering enter into more than information gathering? Because it's, like I said, it's been 10 days.
When all the information is gathered, sir. Hello? Call ended. Detective Sheppard.
Hey, this is Chris X. We appear to have gotten disconnected.
Yeah, I was talking. I'm like, hello, and then I was like, oh, I think we got disconnected or something. I was like, did he hang up on me?
No, I didn't hang up on you. I thought, so I don't know where it got cut off for me, saying stuff, but when I quit saying stuff, then there seemed to be like nobody there.
Yeah. So Mr. Hicks, as I said, we're just trying to gather information at this point, and I understand your frustration and that you feel that...
Well, but hold on, did you hear me? It might have dropped before, because I was saying something. I don't think I talked overly long, but I might have. It's been 10 days now since I talked to Chief Deputy Stratton after Andy Capel came to me. So at what point are we past, and you're saying you can't tell me whether the person, that's bringing forward the claims that there's going to be a violent act against me and my son and I, that they haven't, we're still doing information gathering. So I guess my question is how is this being taken seriously if 10 days after it came to the attention of the Claremont County Sheriff's Office, we're still in information gathering mode?
Well, sir, because there's certain things that have to be obtained, and it takes time sometimes to obtain certain information. And again, I can't go into details about an ongoing investigation while we're at an information gathering stage. And so sometimes those things take time. And I understand your frustration that you feel that it's been 10 days and it's been that long. But this is not being...
I don't understand what it is that... I don't buy any of this. I think it's an attempt to basically whitewash it.
Well, I'm sorry that you feel that way.
Because if there was a credible threat...
That's not what's happening.
So if I said... But the point is that I feel like that's why I want to make a complaint myself that there's two things going on here. One is a threat against my son and me. And that we may, I guess if we're at 10 days and we're information gathering, maybe in 20 days we'll figure out whether that's legitimate or not. Now, I would think if I said my neighbor was making a threat against me, somebody would talk to my neighbor almost immediately. Not have a 10-day investigation prior to even going to the person. Potentially, I'm not saying that you haven't gone to them, but so we're 10 days in, and that part one is there a threat? Okay, which would mean, I guess, I'm not a lawyer, but somebody, whoever these people are that Mr. Simpson is telling other people just randomly came up to him and told him about this threat, that they are attempting to menace me. Or they are, I don't know when menacing becomes an actual, what the levels are, but some other people, not Mr. Simpson. The other thing that is, should that threat be deemed not to be legitimate, then the crime potentially involved here is that Mr. Simpson who has a pattern of this kind of stuff, is attempting to intimidate me. He's attempting to menace me. And what he has a pattern of doing is going to people that he knows are going to come back to me and making these kind of claims. So Andy Capel, I don't really talk to very much. Nick Owens, I talk to on a fairly regular basis. And so, but that aspect is very important to me also, because I cannot have a person constantly trying to intimidate me.
Well, when you mention the pattern, do you have documentation or other incidents?
Yes, you guys did. If you talk to Detective Stratton, there's a whole investigation of when this gentleman previously claimed directly to me, in the presence of other people, in a recorded conversation, that he had hacked my computer and all of my financial records and was telling people things about me based on him having hacked my computers and knowing everything about me, knew where I was going to be before I knew where I was, knew where I was going to be based on being able to directly access my calendar, for example. Mm-hmm. Knew what payments I had made to certain people and had not, based on his ability to directly access my financial records. So that whole thing happened in, I think it was 2020, and it was before COVID, I believe, but so it might have been, and that event happened at the Claremont County Fair, and there was a whole investigation into that. So if you're doing an investigation, and part of it, and I keep bringing up, is that either there is and as it relates to this matter, the threat is a credible threat, and if it is not, then it is part of this pattern of Greg Simpson trying to intimidate and menace me. And he does so either directly to me or by making claims to people who he knows are going to come and tell me. But the intent of that behavior is to intimidate, harass, and menace me, and to make me fearful. Wouldn't you be fearful if somebody told you they have access to all of your records?
Well, Mr. Hicks, I investigate personal crime, so I deal with some pretty awful people that tell me some pretty awful things about me that they want to do every day. So.
I'm sure if you've not dealt with people in the political system, you'll come to realize that they're a level of awful people that, as I told Detective Stratton, I feel like if I were in your guys' shoes, sometimes I'd rather deal with regular criminals. At least I know how they are, but this kind of stuff, this kind of behavior, and now we branch into intimidating, menacing, and trying to create fear in my son.
And I understand your concerns. I hear what you're saying, and I assure you that this is not being whitewashed. That this is being looked at very thoroughly. I'm not talking only about the threat that I need to take as credible, a threat against my son and me. But then I'm talking about, particularly if that threat turns out to not be credible, that it is this pattern of attempting to intimidate, harass, and menace me. And by the way, as an aside to this, you should be well attuned. You're probably not, but a set of statutes that you guys probably never deal with, or hardly ever deal with, is under Section 2921. So where public officials and political officials, of which are members of central committees like I am and Mr. Simpson is, 2921 are felony crimes relating to political officials that are on party committees. You can go look at the definitions. So apart from normal like coercion, things like this, there's a set of intimidation and retribution statutes that are uniquely in Ohio law specific to, they would tie to both elected officials, but they also specifically enumerate political officials as members of central committees. Okay. And so those are all felony crimes. And so, I obviously have talked to Chief Deputy Stratton about this a couple of times. And that's when I told him that I wanted to file a complaint, and that's what I think, led to you and I talking. And so my complaint is that
one of those two things. There's either one of two crimes has happened. Either some other people that we don't know who they are are trying to menace me or have menaced me and my son by making these threats, or, if that proved not to be true, which would be good if it weren't true, but I have to take it very seriously. If it weren't true, then it's a second, this will be the second investigation of the sheriff's office involving Greg Simpson doing these things to intimidate, menace me, specifically to keep me from doing things related to political office, to party office that I'm elected to, which is a felony under 2921. It's like 01, 03, and 05. 01 defines who does the statute apply to. 03 and 05, I think one of those is intimidation and the other one's retribution.
Okay.
And so I want this being taken very seriously, and I hope that the outcome is that Mr. Simpson, that in fact, it'd be the best thing for me, but I have to take it seriously, but that there isn't, some guys that are coming after us, my son and I. By the way, we joke like, why isn't my wife included? She apparently, is not going to get she's not going to get beat. But if the statement is people in Columbus are making these things, and my son lives in Columbus, it's one thing to try to intimidate, harass, and have retribution against me by saying you've hacked my computer, you've done this, you've done that. When you go to that next level and you're doing this potentially, either there's a credible threat or not, but you're then involved in something to potentially bring in harm to my son, that is takes it to a different level. Mm-hmm. And that's why I want to make sure that both sides of this, is the threat credible, yes or no, and hopefully we're 10 days in, maybe even 20 or 30 days in, we'll figure out whether there's a credible threat. And then if there is, okay, if there isn't, then this needs to be adjudicated as Mr. Simpson making false statements, trying to create fear in me, trying to intimidate me, now trying to intimidate my son. And there's already been one investigation of this, where I sat in a room with the sheriff and Chief Deputy Stratton, where they've heard a recording with them telling me there is absolutely zero question in their mind that the recording is Greg Simpson. And that was from this prior incident.
Okay.
And so this has just got to stop, and hopefully, I got to take, like I keep saying, I know I'm being a broken record, but I have to take seriously the threat. But if it turns out the threat isn't a credible threat, this cannot go away. I'm not going to let it go away. Then another crime has been committed. If it's not a credible threat, then another crime has been committed, and that is Greg Simpson trying to intimidate me, trying to have retribution on me, and trying to menace me. Happened before. It's going to keep happening. And, but like I said, for right now, by the way, one of the reasons why I had communicated to Deputy Stratton that Nick Owens had told me some stuff related to Simpson shooting off his mouth at Brown County events, or contacting Nick Owens on matters. And so the reason I told that to Chief Deputy Stratton was because he, the story that I thought I had heard, originally Nick Owens told me that to the best of my recollection, that that Greg Simpson had made statements at their Lincoln Day dinner, whatever day that was. That would be this has been within the last week or so, about this, and Nick couldn't remember that he thought the word elevator, and he couldn't remember, was it in the elevator, by the elevator, coming off the elevator, like where these guys supposedly came up to Simpson and told him about, they're coming after me and my son. And then the other day, I guess there had been some other communication between Nick Owens and Greg Simpson. And then Greg Simpson Nick Owens had told me, now Greg Simpson says that it was not even in the Rife building, it was across the street, or it wasn't, I didn't use the word across the street, it was that it was by the Capitol, which is across the street from the Rife building in Columbus, which makes me immediately think, okay, my understanding, if you're trying to get, say, building video for the Rife Center, and now all of a sudden Greg Simpson's story changes to, well, it wasn't in that building, it was someplace else. And you're doing your request for A, but the story's changing to B and C. I would have already, I think professional police work would have been to already have pinned Greg Simpson down on a story. What is his story? Because I don't know what the story was with Andy Capel. I have not talked to Andy Capel about the call that, I know that there's a recorded call with Greg Simpson. I have not talked to him. I've had no information on that. I don't know if that story is consistent with the story that Nick Owens was told by Greg Simpson. But obviously that would go to the credibility of the threat. If the story keeps changing about, who gave the threat, was it 2 guys, 1 guy, 5 guys, over here, that would start to at least, make one believe that the threat was of questionable credibility. But right now, I guess you guys haven't you may not have bothered to pin Greg Simpson down on what his actual statement is on what he claims happened.
Well, as I stated, I can't discuss some of the details of an ongoing investigation, but I assure you that we're taking all the steps to obtain all the information.
Well, that's not, you've taken all the steps to obtain the information. I mean, what you should be doing is taking the steps to make sure that my son and I don't get our asses beat, and then taking the steps to make sure that if there's a credible threat, whoever's behind the credible threat gets prosecuted quickly. And if there isn't a credible threat, then who's the person going around trying to intimidate and menace me by making these statements, that's dealt with appropriately. Not about information. The information is that's why when you say this, I'm not, you and I don't know each other at all, but the way you're saying this stuff is, I'd like to hear, we're going to pursue this to figure out who's behind it. And it's either a credible threat from a couple guys or however many guys or that walked up to Greg Simpson randomly and told him about this threat, or it's Greg Simpson is behind it. And the intent of Greg Simpson is to menace me, is to intimidate me, is to harass me, to make me fearful. That's his intent. And by the way, had he been questioned, or maybe he has been questioned, but if he keeps changing his story, which is what happened on the prior investigation, he outright lied to the investigator. I can't remember what detective it was there, but he lied to him on audio in the interview that the detective did with him. And it was a poor interview that the detective did. Poor interview with Simpson. That looked back then like it was an attempt to make sure there was no here. Because in our system in Claremont County, there's people that are in the political system that control endorsements, like Chris Stratton is endorsed for sheriff. They tend to not have anything ever happen to them. And I'm not going to settle for that anymore. I already went through one rope-a-dope investigation in which it was whitewashed, in my view. By the way, it was whitewashed primarily by the prosecutor's office. But I'm just not going to go through that again. I can't have this keep happening, and now we've got a person doing the same kind of behavior to intimidate and menace and stretching it to my son now. I don't know if you have kids, but that's not going to play.
I understand.
And I don't care about Chris Stratton's endorsement. He's unopposed running for sheriff. He shouldn't be worried about his endorsement and his political standing. He should be worried about that people that are committing crimes are prosecuted for those crimes.
Well, sir, I don't think that political affiliations affect the operations of this office, so.
Do you have any other questions for me right at this time? I'm glad to talk at any time. I'm usually pretty easy to get in touch with. So just in the last, when you called yesterday, I was doing stuff, and then you called. I was on another phone call when you called just at 10 this morning, so I called you back as soon as I could.
I understand, and I respect that you're, out of town. I don't at this time. I have taken notes of your complaint. I have your son's contact information, and I will follow up in regards to that. And hopefully the next time that I speak with you, I will have more information that I can provide to you. But as I said, at this time, I'm gathering information.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.